Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cyber Voices, the official podcast of the Australian Information Security Association, otherwise known as AISA. I'm your host, as always, David Willett, and it is my pleasure to have you with us as we explore the diverse voices of the Australian cyber industry. Hello and welcome back to Cyber Voices, coming to you live backstage at Canberra CyberCon 2025. David Willett here with you again, as always, and I am joined in the room today by a very special guest, someone I have been very excited to meet, one of our keynote speakers here at CyberCon 2025. I am going to embarrass her a little bit just by reading off some of her amazing achievements. So the wonderful individual sitting opposite me at the moment is an award-winning computer scientist, technology evangelist, love that term, and social entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience, passionate advocate for advancing women in tech and digital inclusion, has founded a number of different foundations, including Tech Up Women, and has been providing transformational opportunities for underrepresented communities. She is recognized as one of Forbes' top 50 women in tech and is celebrated for her pioneering campaign to save Bletchley Park, which was kicked off on social media, I believe. I am joined today by Professor Sue Black. Got through it all. How are you, Sue?
I'm good. Thanks, David. Thanks very much for inviting me to talk to you.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the invite up and for making your first trip to our nation's capital, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, first time in Canberra.
Yeah, and how have you found the trip so far?
Yeah, really lovely. I've had a great time, actually. Yeah, it's really, there's lots of space in Canberra, which I really like, being able to see things at a distance rather than, I live in London, so everything's kind of like crammed in all the time. So no, really lovely. I met some really great people.
It is a beautiful place. I lived here myself for 10 years.
Yeah.
It is a little unexpected, I think, as a capital. People think, oh yeah, it's a lot of green space, very open, as you said,
Yeah.
but not your first trip to Australia.
No, so we've been over, I think, 3 times before, but I've just been to Sydney and Brisbane previously.
Amazing.
It's nice to come here.
Never got down to Melbourne?
Never been to Melbourne, so I need to come back.
Melbourne's where I live.
Right, okay. So please invite me to speak at a conference in Melbourne.
And how have you found CyberCon so far?
Just been chatting to a few people, and yeah, I mean, what a great crowd, really nice people, and cybersecurity is so important. So of course it's great to be here and speak to some of the experts.
Do you get along to a lot of cyber conferences?
Not really, no. I guess it's not exactly my specialism. I'm more in the hand-wavy technology evangelism. I come from a software engineering background, like my PhD is software engineering, but these days I guess I'm more interested in helping people, the general public, to understand the opportunities with technology and the risks as well. So, that's what I focus on a lot of the time, really.
And is that what you mean by being a technology evangelist, by the way? Because as I said in your intro, I do love that term. Can you tell me a bit more about how you define yourself as a technology evangelist?
Yeah, I think technology so often is portrayed as a negative thing. And of course there are negative sides. But at the same time, it's massively changed my life. Like technology and education have really changed my life for the better, kind of helping me to bring my family out of poverty, really, into, me having a successful career. But also I think it helps you to, if you feel confident with technology, it really helps you yourself feel a more confident person. So like some of the programs that I've run have been to help women or retrain women from underserved communities into tech careers. And not only through those programs do you see the women becoming more confident with technology, but just more confident as people. Because I think so often, lots of us haven't done anything to do with tech at school, really, and maybe not after that. So many people are interested in it, a bit scared of it, but don't realise that there's so many opportunities. So that's the kind of thing that I talk about a lot, is the opportunities that there are in tech careers, with technology in general, being able to understand things like, everyone's talking about AI these days. So being able to understand the difference between like a web search and a large language model, ChatGPT. I think lots of people don't understand the difference between those two things. And just it's kind of like, I really like getting over once you know it, it's basic, but it's not really that basic, I guess. Understanding of technology, because I think it empowers people in so many different ways.
Your work around, so the different groups you work for, so I mentioned before Tech Up Women, you've got BCS Women as well, largely focused in the UK?
Yeah. So, but, I'd love to go global.
Well, I guess the reason why I ask is
Yeah.
because cyber, as I don't know if you'd call it an offshoot of technology. It's definitely a part of technology.
Yeah, it's part of tech, yeah.
There's a stat in Australia which is being thrown around a lot lately, and an important one at that, and that is that 17% of all roles in cybersecurity are made up of women.
Right.
Or women are acting in those roles.
Yeah.
That is a scarily little number.
Yeah.
But
I think it's, like I started BCS Women, the UK's first online network for women in tech, back in 1998. So like 27 years ago, I can't believe that. And at the time, it was about 15 to 20% women in tech. And I think it's pretty much the same now. And so that completely fits almost right in the middle there of that 15 to 20%. There.
Absolutely, yeah. And so we've got organisations in Australia, like I don't know if you've seen out on the expo floor, we've got AWSN, the Australian...
I just went to chat to them.
Oh, yeah.
I've just been chatting to them.
We had Jackie, one of their chairs, on very recently. What fantastic individual. But what is the importance of the role that organisations like the ones that you're running in the UK and AWSN are playing in trying to sort of really push the dial on these stats a little bit? Because as we say, even 20% is still not even a quarter
enough.
Of the workforce, right?
True. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think, so I set BCS Women, which was the UK's first network for women in tech, back in 1998, because I've been going to computer science conferences and trying to network at conferences, and that wasn't always easy, and some guys got the wrong idea about why I was chatting to them, unfortunately, occasionally, and I was extremely scared of talking to people back then. I'm changed a bit now, but back then I was so frightened of talking to anyone I didn't know, and so trying to network was pretty horrendous for me. I got very stressed. So I tried networking a few times at computer science conferences, and then I went to this Women in STEM conference in Brussels back in 1998. And I walked in feeling quite scared, what's going to happen at this conference. But then amazingly, for the whole 2 days, I felt like we're having a party, everyone was talking to everyone. So you didn't have to kind of approach people, because it was all kind of just happening organically, I suppose, is how it seemed to me. And it really helped me to realize that if you're in the majority, life is just easier. And so, I had such a great time at that conference. I thought, well, why don't I try and connect together women in tech in the UK so that, I don't know, we can all have a chat together online. And also, if we're going to conferences, we can arrange to meet up with each other at the conference. And so, came back and started that 27 years ago, and it's still going strong now. Yeah.
And there's so much importance behind that, that creating that safety and community. Yeah. And so, you're not feeling like, you're underrepresented in the room, or you, as you say, you're not part of the majority, so therefore you kind of do lack that safety sometimes. And that goes for people who don't necessarily gel well with that kind of big social environment as well. Whether you're talking about neurodivergent people or people who are just incredibly introverted. I myself sit on more the introverted side of extrovert, and being out sometimes throwing myself out there on the conference floor, having to force my right, let's go proactively talk to people and network and engage, because that's what's expected of you. Yeah.
I mean, that's how I was. And I managed to kind of work my way through into not being scared by that stuff anymore. But I mean, that's like 27 years ago, right? I was scared of it, and I've gradually got used to being on stage, chatting to people. The first time I taught a class when I was doing my PhD, I didn't sleep the night before because I was so scared that I was going to have to go in and teach 10 students. And before I started teaching, I just went and sat in the toilets in the loos.
Oh, no.
Just kind of prepare myself mentally to walk into the classroom. And I remember sitting there thinking, I would rather have a heart attack and die in this toilet cubicle than go in and teach that class, because I was so scared.
Yeah.
But I managed to do it, and then a bigger class, and then a bigger class, and then in 2017, I got the Social Impact Award at the Grace Hopper Conference in the US, which is the biggest women in tech conference in the world. And so I got to give a talk to 17,000 people, which is a completely insane number. And when I was standing there thinking, how did I manage to do that? I mean, it took time, right? That's nearly 2 decades really to get that kind of confidence and stuff. But I just feel like we don't always realize that we can change the way we see things, and we can change the things that we can comfortably do by just kind of pushing ourselves out there a bit more and a bit more. And then over time, you get to somewhere that's so totally different from where you were.
Sometimes I think it's great in those moments. Do you wish you could go back to younger Sue sitting in that bathroom cubicle, terrified, and just say, "You're actually going to be really amazing at this one day. They're going to fly you all over the world for thousands and thousands of people to want to hear you."
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess that's partly what I try to get over in my talks, is that I did come from this very difficult, background, completely underconfident, not self-confident at all, scared of everybody and everything, through to now kind of living my best life, I guess, basically. And so I talk about that journey because I want other people, other women to realize that you can actually change, you can actually make things better for yourself over time. It just, you have to keep going.
Yeah.
Keep focused on what you want and surround yourself by people that support you in what you're doing as well.
Yeah. I think you've got to celebrate when you actually push through some of that fear and actually get out there and do it. I wonder how many people will listen to this and remember, oh yeah, I've had a moment where I've been huddled in a toilet cubicle or in a small office cubicle or whatever it is. Yeah. I know I have.
Yeah.
And I think probably a lot of people, whether in their careers or personal lives, and they've been about to do something big, whether it's give a big talk or whatever it might be, have probably done that. Huddled and felt like they're going to fall.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Pushed through it and gone out and done it.
Yeah. And the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Absolutely. Now, you're joining us at CyberCon today to talk a little bit about the work that you did to save Bletchley Park. For those of us who aren't quite sure, can you remind us what Bletchley Park is?
Yeah, so Bletchley Park is the place in the UK where the code breakers worked during the Second World War. And, the first time I went there, I thought it was about 50, for some reason, 50 old blokes wearing tweed jackets. So I don't know if I'd seen a photo or something. But in fact, 10,000 people worked there, 8,000 of whom were women. And the work that they did was said to have shortened World War II by 2 years. And at that time, 11 million people a year were dying. So potentially the work that was done there saved 22 million lives. So I found out that the place might have to close because they were running out of money. And then started a campaign to save it.
I was wondering, this is where Alan Turing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He was one of the code breakers at Bletchley Park. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, sorry, I love that movie with cover patch. So that was what rung true to me. So you have undertook a huge social media campaign to save Bletchley Park. Now, what was going to happen? What were you saving Bletchley Park from?
Also, the director said they were teetering on a financial knife edge. So basically, they were running out of money. It was 80% of the staff were volunteers, and the main visitors to the site were people that were kind of over 60, over 70. And so, because they were the people that knew about it from previous years, and no one else really knew about it, so they didn't get to the stage where it was going to shut. But the director said, if we don't get some money in soon, we're going to have to close down. And they had already previously sold off half the site to be developed into like a housing development. But that had already happened, which had brought in some money some years ago. But they were running out of money again.
And what was, apart from its historical significance, what was your connection to Bletchley Park that kicked off your campaign and that made you want to save it?
Yeah, so I went up there for a meeting in 2003. That's the first time that I'd been there, and I didn't really know much about the place. And I was representing the network that I set up for women in tech, BCS Women. So I went there, went to the meeting, and then it's a 26-acre site. So I kind of went for a walk around the site, have a look around, walked into one of the huts there. And there were these guys who had this kind of like amazing feat of engineering. They were building something and I couldn't work out what it was. So I went over to chat to them, asked what they were doing. And it turned out that they were rebuilding Alan Turing's bomb machine, which is called Christopher in the Imitation Game film.
Yeah.
If anyone's seen that. So they were trying to rebuild that because there weren't any working models and most people didn't know anything about that because it was all kept secret after World War II.
Yeah.
So spoke to them about what they were doing. And then they asked me why I was there. I said, I'm representing this group of women in tech. And they said, oh, did you know that more than half the people that worked at Bletchley Park were women? And I was like, I had no idea about that. How many people worked here? And they said more than 10,000. So in fact, about 8,000 women worked at Bletchley Park.
Incredible.
And so that time I went away and thought, I've got to raise the profile of the women that worked at Bletchley Park. Managed to get funding to run an oral history project to capture their memories. And then at the launch of that was when the director said, we're teetering on a financial knife edge. We might have to close. And then I got invited up to a reception, did a tour of the site with one of the code breakers that had worked there during World War II. And he told us about all these amazing code-breaking achievements kind of in each building as we were walking around, what had happened. And, some of the code breakers were as young as 16, 18. These amazing code-breaking achievements. And we got to the end of the tour and he said, and the work that was done here was said to have shortened World War II by 2 years. And at that time, 11 million people a year were dying. So potentially saved 22 million lives. So I thought to myself, this place can't close. I've got to do something about it. So that was in 2008. And then I was head of department at University of Westminster, head of a computing department. So I emailed all the heads and professors of computing in the country. We all signed a letter, which we sent into the Times newspaper. I managed to get in touch with the BBC, got onto BBC News.
Mm-hmm.
They filmed me there at Bletchley Park talking about the fact that we needed to save it. So kind of used traditional media to start with. That went out kind of worldwide on BBC News and stuff. Lots of people got in touch with me, but Bletchley Park didn't get any more money. So it didn't actually achieve really what I wanted it to in a way. And then after that, time went on and no money was coming into Bletchley Park. I was just thinking, what do I do now? Like I've got on national press, radio, TV. What else can I do? And then towards the end of that year, I started using Twitter and then realized quite quickly, oh, wow, here I can just put like hashtag Bletchley Park, hashtag Codebreaker, put that, into Twitter search. And then I can find people all around the world that are interested already in these areas. So then I can contact them and chat to them about the campaign and try and get them involved. So I basically just did that over and over and over and over again, like every day. I set up a blog to kind of document the story of trying to save Bletchley Park, put a link to that in my bio on Twitter. So then people would see that and get in touch with me. Various sort of social media gurus, I guess, really helped to sort of amplify the campaign. And then in February 2009, I saw Stephen Fry tweeted a photo of himself stuck in Centre Point, stuck in a lift in Centre Point in a big building in London. And I just saw the photo of Stephen Fry. And at the time, he was the person in the UK with the most followers on Twitter. And I thought, I know he likes history. I know he likes technology. Why don't I try and send him some direct messages? Luckily, he was following me. So I did that. And the next morning, he tweeted a link to my blog. And I was getting about 50 hits a day. And the day that he tweeted it, I got 8,000 hits that day and became the most retweeted person in the world on Twitter. So basically kind of went viral, I suppose is what we'd call it now. And I think that was a massive turning point in the campaign, really. So like the traditional media sort of worked a bit, but actually it was social media that made a massive difference.
Yeah. And I wonder what were some of the key things that really kind of got people interested, right? Even sitting here talking to you now, the first thing I mention is, I know that movie and Alan Turing, who was one person, right? And an important historical figure at that. But you've really opened my eyes today that there was many, many, many more people behind that work, men and women who really changed the course of history. What was that like, opening people's eyes to, really why this site was worth saving?
Yeah, I think through Twitter, you have to have like really clear messaging. So, I would basically be saying the same things over and over again.
Of course,
which is the importance, isn't it? The importance of Bletchley Park, where it is, sharing photos of the site, talking about the code breakers. So I think that, I don't know really. I mean, people just got involved. It seemed to resonate with people quite a lot. And I think because it was quite an early use of Twitter, there were lots of kind of early adopters on there, I suppose, like the general public, I suppose in quotes, weren't really using Twitter so much back then. So there were loads of people that worked in all different kinds of fields that were sort of excited in using Twitter itself because it was a new thing, and also in kind of making positive change happen. So I just met actually the best people through Twitter at that time. I really did. And I've gone on to meet hundreds of them in person after like chatting to them online for such a long time through Twitter. So yeah, I don't know. It was just incredible. And it kind of like, it changed my life in a positive way as well, running the campaign, because I got to meet so many really cool people.
Yeah. And you mentioned this was sort of around 2005, 2006.
2008.
2011,
yes.
Yeah, but which was still pretty early, I think, in terms of social media. I think I got a Facebook account for the first time in 2007.
Yeah.
How do you think social media platforms have evolved in terms of advocacy and activism compared to the traditional forms of media? And do you think that they still hold that power now because they've come a long way and there's a lot more options available.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's incredible what's happened really over the last sort of 10 to 15 years. And well, I mean, just for example, like TikTok, like everyone who's my daughter Leah's age, I think is on TikTok several hours a day, and she's probably on it now while we're sitting here.
Plugged in over there in the corner.
So I find it really interesting because I think, like I'm just thinking about like the Black Lives Matter campaign, actually, like my daughter through TikTok became really politically aware during that time. So I think there are lots of positive things still happening through social media. And, and now we've got so many different platforms. There's kind of like something for everybody in a way. So I think, we've still got, I guess it's just human nature. We're going to have negative stuff happening.
Of course.
But also there's lots of positive stuff out there as well, I think. And yeah, I guess I'm a glass half full person. I always like to focus on the positive because I don't know, like the media seems to quite a lot of the time focus on the negative stuff. So, I'm really keen that people understand how they can use social media platforms, use technology to make their lives better in all different sorts of ways. And I think the negative stuff is just going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think the fact that we can connect in so many different ways, the fact that, sort of technology has evolved so much that it's enabled us to, to be able to post videos and watch other people's videos, which like we couldn't really do like 15 years ago. Yeah. It's just changed so much, and it's helped people to see what other people are doing all around the world. Like the Arab Spring wouldn't have happened without social media. So, I mean, you can use it for good or ill. I think the technology is kind of agnostic, but yeah, like I said, I'm glass half full person, so I'm always looking for the positive.
Yeah, and no, I love a glass half full approach, and you're absolutely right. You can't underestimate the power of expression and uniqueness and individualism that people get out of social media. You mentioned TikTok there as well, and that's stuff like that is untapping a whole new paradigm in creativity and expression in young people. And I think those of us in the older generations would be foolish to push back on it. And I see so many people who do because it's not going anywhere.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think I've told this story on this podcast before where during the US election last year, I was on a train headed home from work one day, and a young girl was educating her father on various different positions of the two candidates in the US based on what she'd heard on TikTok.
Yeah.
And we had a recent debate in this country around restricting the minimum age of people on social media to be 16.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people advocating against that because, well, actually, no, this is how a lot of young people consume information. And particularly important, they mentioned how they rally together for advocacy on a number of different important topics. So I wonder how you feel about, because social media platforms are changing, right? So there seems to be a lot of people who get very hung up on which platforms they're on based on who owns them or or whatever is going on. And say, for example, Twitter has changed a lot, right?
Yes, it has.
And I went through something recently where I went on a bit of a social media cleanse, and I took myself off specific platforms that maybe I felt did not have, for various different reasons that I aligned to for different ideological reasons or whatever, or social reasons or whatever they may be. But then I had someone else say to me, I'm staying on there. I'm staying on because I think we still need to be, our point of view, it needs to be seen, and we don't need to avoid these turning into an echo chamber, right? Because they have been so important and can continue to do like the work that you did, right? So do you think that it's important that people still, they don't abandon these platforms just maybe because they don't agree with the person who owns them or whatever it might be? Yeah,
no, that's a really good point. I mean, I get it's personal choice, right?
Of course, yeah.
And so, for example, Twitter is now X. I absolutely loved Twitter and it changed my life. And now with X, it's like kind of tumbleweed.
It's a different place.
Yeah, exactly. And so I worked hard to build up my kind of like amount of followers and got to 65,000 followers on Twitter back in the day.
Yeah.
So it kind of like breaks my heart that I can't connect with those people, those friends that I've made through Twitter in the same way now, because it just doesn't work like that anymore. So, lots of people have said they left Twitter. I've decided I'll just leave my account there. And
of course, yeah.
Because things might change. You just don't know. Like, who would have dreamed? I never would have dreamed that it would now be X and, Elon Musk and stuff. So it might just change back. at some point. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. You can't quite predict it. Do you still use social media in your work that you're doing, especially in the work that you're doing with women in tech? Is it still a tool for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess mainly LinkedIn these days. I mainly post on there because I guess that's the easiest way to connect with the people that I want to talk to, and also that I want to see, what they're up to as well. But yeah, also I set up a TikTok and I had one video which did really well, but then I didn't quite know what to do after. And I keep saying, yeah, I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to do something, and I haven't done it. So I don't know. Watch this space, maybe. Yeah, and I've got like a sort of friends Facebook and a more public Facebook, and I've got Instagram. And I mean, I do just really love it because I suppose I love connecting with people. I love seeing what other people are doing. And yeah, I don't know. Also, I quite like the fact that I can, like look back at my Instagram, for example, like over years and remember things that I was doing because I see the photos. And it's kind of like, capturing all the things that I've done over time, which now and again, it's just nice to look back at and kind of remember things that you've done. So I like all of the photos. So I guess, I like looking at the photos, but also I love connecting with people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. I had a bit of a crisis myself, right?
Yeah.
I thought, no, I need to get rid of it. And then I think I went to remove my Instagram, and my partner actually said, but the video of you proposing to me is on there.
Really?
And I was like, well, I might still have that video somewhere else. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Well, my wedding is on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
The video, my 2-minute wedding in City Hall in New York is on Facebook. We live streamed it,
Yeah.
And I don't want to delete all of that stuff and kind of lose it. So I think probably whatever happened, I might make my account dormant, like not do anything,
course, yeah.
but I wouldn't just close it, I don't think. And I think people that do that are very brave.
Yeah.
Really.
I guess maybe there's just a bit of a fork in the road for social media at the moment, right?
Yeah.
I think people are reevaluating the role it plays in their lives a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially, and maybe that's more true of people, people who are a little bit further on in their careers or their lives.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's changed too much for younger people. But one question I did want to ask you, though, your keynote is titled, "Did Twitter Save Bletchley Park?"
Yeah.
Is the answer yes?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was the, sort of the key turning point was actually not me getting on Twitter, but connecting with Stephen Fry, really, because he had such a large audience and he's such a kind of like valued figure in the UK, a sort of trusted figure. It's
I'm
like
a big fan of Stephen, so I'm glad. Did you actually meet him?
Yeah, he's amazing, right? So he's a national treasure, basically.
Yeah.
So a national treasure supporting and promoting what we were trying to do, I think, was the key turning point. So it took another 2 years till it was saved, but I think that was where things really changed.
Incredible. And looking ahead, what advice would you have for aspiring digital activists or young professionals who are looking to create meaningful change in their own communities?
Yeah, I think surround you, like find other people that care about the same thing that you do, and keep going. Don't give up, because, I thought the Bletchley Park campaign would take 6 months and it took 3 years in the end. I think by the end I thought I'll just be doing this for the rest of my life. So it might, things I think in general take a lot longer than you expect them to. So just keep going. Find people that care about the same thing that you do. Find key influential people that care about the same thing that you do, that can really spread your message. So like, the Stephen Fry effect. And surround yourself with people that support you in what you're doing, because there's nothing worse than trying to make things happen when people are like negative.
Yeah. One question that just popped into my head, though, when I think about this is, how do you think we avoid echo chambers, though, when it comes to these things? So I feel I've joined some circles on social media, or I've jumped to some new platforms where I feel like it's just everyone agrees with me. And I'm like, yes, we all violently agree on this same thing. How do you think we avoid that?
Well, I guess notice when that's happening. And the thing is, you do need that at times, because you need people around that will support you in what you're doing. Because if you are only in places where everyone's negative or has different opinion to you, that makes it very hard. So I think you need both, really. It's good to have that kind of supportive environment, but then also you need to get out there and sort of throw yourself into things where maybe, most people don't have the same opinion as you, but always kind of protect yourself,
Of course.
Because we need to look after our I guess, mental health, and think about that as well. So, yeah, always think about keeping yourself safe and keeping yourself mentally healthy as well at the same time.
Incredible. Well, Sue, thank you so much for contributing to CyberCon. I think your message will be a really, really powerful one for all of the professionals in the industry that we have here, and for coming all this way. I used to have to go to the UK a lot for work. I know what a trip it can be.
Yeah, such a fun journey.
and thank you for sharing your voice with us today.
No, my absolute pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Cyber Voices. Our music is by Sanar Garut, our show artwork is by Studio Quarantine, and we record our show at This Is a Studio in Pran, Melbourne, part of Popplant Productions. Please make sure you follow the show on your podcast platform of choice and leave us a 5-star review. This will help others find the show. Also, please follow the association on LinkedIn and Instagram. If you want to add your voice to our ever-growing chorus of diverse cyber voices, have questions, feedback, or would like to be a sponsor, you can do so by emailing us at cybervoices@aisa.org.au. That's cybervoices@aisa.org.au. Are you an AISA member? If not, you should consider joining our network of over 12,000 members across Australia. An AISA membership can open doors, build professional networks, create lifetime friendships, and offer exclusive training, events, and other perks. Become a member today by heading to our website at aisa.org.au. That is all for today. I hope you will join us again next time on Cyber Voices.